We are back.
We're back on the air. If I'm out of breath, it is because, see, I need a psychologist. I got my psychologist here.
Yeah.
I came home tonight. Car was covered with snow. Bylaw guy had just put a parking ticket on. Then it was parked there for, he said, more than 72 hours. I don't think so. I think I actually parked it there Sunday night, but I don't remember, and there's a bunch of cars. Anyway, I moved the car to put it on the other side of the street. And my daughter, Jane, just said, why is there a tow truck at the bottom of the driveway? So I went down, and the tow truck driver said he actually said he was making a bunch of noise, hoping to attract our attention, because he didn't want to tow the car. Anyways, property license, parked in front of my house. Gosh, you never know what's going to happen, do you?
Nope.
We're back. We're going to talk this time fibromyalgia.
Right.
Again. We just did chronic fatigue syndrome.
Right.
And fibromyalgia is the same thing. It's always school teachers and nurses. Usually females.
That's right.
Is that the same with CFS? Usually females?
Much more so females than males, and the same is true with fibromyalgia. More frequently.
And what is fibromyalgia? I understand it's something like having 9 pain points.
Basically, it's pain in the body that moves around, and it strongly disrupts sleep, and sleep exacerbates the pain, so you get caught in one of these vicious cycles. There are 3 prominent causes of fibromyalgia. The first is a head injury. The second is a viral infection, serious viral infection, and the third is emotional trauma. Now, those are the triggers that will turn on the neurological predisposition. And always, 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 with fibromyalgia, you find a deficiency in the back of the brain, which again is the stress tolerance issue. You also find elevated slow frequency up in the right prefrontal cortex. And that's emotional dysregulation, among other things. Chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia are sister disorders. And some people develop one, some people develop the other.
Do they get both?
Well, if you have fibromyalgia, you are a very tired person. So
okay.
The distinguishing difference between them is the pain factor. When they arrive in my office, typically they're very heavily medicated, and they're kind of at the end of their rope.
No, a different medication for fibromyalgia than you would for CFS?
Actually, they tend to be very similar. The difference with fibromyalgia is they tend to use some pain medication in addition to, they almost always give some sort of antidepressant, but they do off-label use of all kinds of crazy things. And when you get a very heavily medicated person with fibromyalgia, it can be a very, very difficult situation to deal with because they're frightened to come off the medication.
Because it'll hurt.
That's what they believe. And yet the medication is kind of run out of steam.
Isn't working anymore.
Isn't working anymore, right? So what we do is try to work with somebody. If the prescribing physician will cooperate with us, then we work with titration. If not, we often refer to other physicians who work with us to titrate down off the medication.
Now, by titrate, you're talking about reducing the dosage over
a long period of time.
How long would be long? 3 months, 6 months, or 6 weeks?
Depends on how much. But generally speaking, the problem we face is that once people start to feel better, then they're in a hurry, and we always encourage them, do it right the first time. Come down slowly, and we come down usually in statistical units rather than pharmaceutical units. What I mean by that is you come down 10% and then you sit there for a while. 10% sit there for a while. Pharmaceutical unit, you're taking 2 tablets, take one every other day. Take one every other day. Take 2 the alternate days. So you're coming down quite a bit, and that can be quite a jolt. if you don't titrate properly, then to get back to where you were can take a lot more medication. So you want to do it right the first time.
Okay. So again, what do you do at that point? Do you, is it the same thing? You speed up part of the brain, slow it down? What
You increase slow frequency in the back of the brain, so the brain can quiet, heal itself. Sleep quality is restored. When the sleep quality is restored, the body starts to heal. We have a saying in my business, you fix sleep, you fix a lot of things.
Okay. So let's get back to that fibromyalgia for a second. As you know, I had done programs on ADD before I met you, and I had done programs on fibromyalgia and CFS before I met you.
That's right.
And we have never, that I remember, in any of the 5 programs or so we've done before, never talked about CFS, never talked about fibromyalgia. I hadn't thought of it, and I don't know whether you were doing it back then, or is this something you've done newer, or did I just not spot it? I just didn't spot it. And I was far more concerned with ADD and so on. My understanding from other things that I had done in fibromyalgia was that there were like 8 pain points. Nobody ever told me it was floating. That's the first time I've ever heard that term, that they move around.
That's right. That's one of the hallmarks of fibromyalgia. The pain tends to move around. You get exceptions to that rule, of course, but generally speaking, people will report that the pain moves around. And the spots that you're talking about is a method for diagnosing fibromyalgia. They're called the trigger points. And if you have so many out of so many, you're...
Well, that's what I understood. And I've never had it explained as a moving pain before.
Yeah, we don't get into the labeling business. You know, basically we look at the brain, see what the areas of inefficiency are, normalize the symptom.
So you can look at somebody's brain and tell me, you could do a brain scan and tell me that I have fibromyalgia.
I would certainly see markers for it, and that's what I would probe. Well, you know the way I do my brain maps.
Yes.
You know that.
Well, you looked at me and you said, if this was this, you would be an addictive personality. If this was this, you would be an... It was just an amazing thing. You said this is... Thankfully, you said I didn't have an addictive personality. What you did say is that I had some part of my brain that never turned off, and we figured that maybe that's what makes a talk show host.
I know. We figured we'd leave that alone.
But you did. You said there's something that never turned off, and you've done that brain scan 3 times on me, and it's always there, right?
That's right. Yes, it is.
So,
as you know, when somebody comes into my office, I do the brain assessment. I don't ask them why they've come. I tell them why they've come to see me.
it's an amazing experience, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you. And, you know, getting down, I mean, we should do another one now after I've had the fight with the tow truck driver, right?
That's right.
It wasn't
yes.
a fight. The guy was so pleasant, it was wonderful. Payless, Gordy Carmichael owns Payless, and that driver, check him out, he was just priceless. He was a really good guy. I mean, like, isn't it nice when you can talk nice about a tow truck driver?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Fibromyalgia, I go see you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told by 15 doctors or 3 doctors or all my girlfriends that I've got fibromyalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I maybe even have been diagnosed and I'm on a disability pension.
Mm-hmm.
And do I really want to lose my compo or not?
Mm-hmm.
But if I would rather go back to work or be able to do things and I'm willing to give it up, or maybe it's going to run out or some such thing, what do you do to fix me? You've talked about getting me off of the drugs if I'm on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you treat me at the same time?
Oh,
Or
yes, yes.
Okay.
We start treating the brain. In the typical case of fibromyalgia, what we would do is increase the slow frequency in the back of the brain. I would prescribe a cranial stimulator for you to use at home.
No, that's the ear clips and the little thing that clips on.
That's right.
Okay.
Where you give yourself...
And that seems to work.
Sure does. It's an FDA registered device.
I have personal experience with that, and somebody used one, yes.
Yeah. And what that does is that increases slow frequency in the back of the brain as well, so that you're giving yourself treatments at home. Just reduces the number of in-office treatments.
And that's something that you can use every day.
That's right, absolutely.
Okay.